Welcome to The Watching Dead, the officially unofficial podcast for The Walking Dead on AMC. I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
And this is the last time I will ever have to say those words. Aaron, this is a series wrap-up. We've waited 12 plus years to do this episode. I said season 6, maybe we should do the series wrap-up right now. Maybe we should just get it out of the way, because this might be it for The Walking Dead. No, turns out another 6 seasons have transpired, and here we are finally doing the episode. We got a lot of feedback from a lot of people. I know we're going to be covering that. Is there anything that we want to do before then? Do we want to relive the Fiesta days of Fiesta de Lori?
The thing is we've already done a definitive end of show podcast where we did all that stuff, and we did it at the end of season 8 when we rage quit the show. So if you want like the nostalgic look back out of all the little skits that we did and all the little voice stuff and all that, so yeah, check out the season 8 finale.
The only thing we've added to the repertoire since then is the Hwacha. Yeah. So if you want that, just go back to the end of the middle of season 10. I can't remember when that was.
I feel like the Feral Daryl stuff might have been, because like Rick voice was always my go-to shtick. Mm-hmm. You know, when Rick went away, I had to find something else, and the Feral Daryl is what stepped forward. So like that's I definitely update the thing for that. And we also had the King. We had one skit in this era of The Walking Dead, the King Ezekiel's Ren Fair.
Yeah, that was a good time.
It's good times. We've got we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got a lot of feedback. A lot of people have been, doing this with us for those 12 years, and they had a lot to say, and I want to honor that as much as possible. I do want to key on something you said, that this is the last time you're ever going to have to say these words about The Walking Dead, et cetera, et cetera. Are you making a solemn pledge to not cover any of these spin-offs, or none of the, like, you're done? There's nothing getting you back?
I mean, I was speaking specifically to the words the Walking Dead, because if we're going to talk about any of the other shows, it'll have to be, Fear the Walking Dead or The World Beyond, or one of the various. It'll have to be Maggie and Negan, or Daryl Dixon, or Rick and Michonne.
That's true. I thought it might be fun to get some of the OG podcasters like Jason Kabasi from the Deadcast, or maybe Jason and Chris from the Talking Dead or something. Like, it might be interesting to convene a council of podcasters and talk about experiences under this brand. But like, yeah, I'm kind of surprised in the last few weeks how I flipped from like, fuck all this shit, I'm not gonna be, to like, I might check it out, like, just for morbid curiosity.
I guess my curiosity comes in like, how far have we diverged from our other show host counterparts? Like, are we the lone voice out there saying this was kind of garbage for 90% of its run?
Yeah.
Or have other podcasters come around to our way of viewing this thing? And how did they react to the Angela Kang era? Because that's been hit and or miss from time to time. So yeah, it might be fun to do something like that.
Yeah, that might be interesting. If we do something like that, I guess I say subscribe to this feed. I will say that, like, just want to make sure everyone knows that there is another zombie show coming out. Mm-hmm. that I have high hopes for. It's The Last of Us. It's going to star Pedro Pascal. It's got Craig Mazin, or is it Mazin?
Mazin. Yep.
I finally got it right. The directed Chernobyl, such engaging, and had a lot of kind of like post-apocalyptic stuff on it already. I'm very excited about that. We're going to be covering that day one. It starts January 15th on HBO Max. And we'll have coverage. We'll probably have a kickoff, the week before. And now, unfortunately, I don't have a feed that I can turn you towards that. We haven't actually got that established, but we are going to do it. If you want a feed that is going to 100% guaranteed be covering that podcast, check out Bald Move Pulp. That's where we put all of our spaceship, our dragon, zombie type coverage in, and it's a pretty good follow if you like Marvel stuff, you like Star Wars stuff, if you like like I said, zombie stuff, check that out. So if you want to get all of our fantasy / pulp stuff, go to Bald Move Pulp. In any podcast player you got, you'll be able to find it, or on our website. Because I think, especially if you're a fan of the promise of the Darabont days, this is going to be a thinking person's zombie show that deals realistically with loss and love and relationships and the threat of the Walking Dead. I think The Last of Us might scratch that itch a little bit better than anything that the Mazzeras and Gimples and Kangs were able to deliver us. All right. I want to get started with Riley G. You talked about with the skepticism about the spinoffs. They're all about that. It says, I cry bullshit on The Walking Dead's expanded universe. Seriously, what's more plausible for their new series? The Daryl spinoff, somehow he makes it across the ocean to France. This backwards character has already been a fish out of water for 12 seasons. Are they really going to try to 10 times that after he learns how to operate a sextant? Aaron, you'll finally get your Master and Commander sequel. I think they're going to posit that there's an effective transatlantic trade. Like these helicopter people they're going to meet up with the boat people, and they're going to have barges and shit. They're going to have mechanized travel across the Atlantic.
Daryl's just going to strap some paddles to his back rotors on his bike. He's just going to turn his bike into a paddle boat.
A pontoon boat with a paddle wheel in the back. Yeah.
And just paddle its way across the Atlantic.
I kind of hope it is a big sailing boat, because I don't know that I buy. Do you know how much fuel it costs for a large ship to go across the Atlantic? I don't either, but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And they've kind of been hazy about where they're getting the diesel for this, that, and the other, and helicopters and whatever. But if you're regularly sending big boats across the Atlantic or the Pacific, that's going to require refineries and oil pump. And I don't know, maybe someone's rebooted the world that much, but boy, I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see how he gets in Paris myself.
Yeah, there's the three-ring binder people. I forget. Whatever those three circles are, whatever they stand for, the CRMs, I don't know.
The Civil Republic Military, I think.
Customer Relations Managers.
Salesforce has gotten militant. They really put the force
yep.
in Salesforce. Yeah.
So they could have refineries. I don't know. I haven't watched the shows that tell us what they're up to, but I plan to never watch those.
Riley continues the roast. Maggie and Negan, what could really force them into a scenario so extraordinary that she can move past their soul-crushing first interaction? Get it? Crushing? Negan's past will be relitigated ad infinitum so long as JDM receives an AMC paycheck. What are the odds this is just a ruse to get it to pack a surprise emotional punch? This was sent in a couple weeks ago before the finale. The idea that these shows are so ridiculous that they're cover. They're cover for the fact that big deaths are going to happen, and they want us to be super duper surprised because they've told us that it's not going to happen, and now it's going to. Of course, that didn't come to pass.
So they're just, there's still a possibility, right? Episode 1 opens of Maggie and Negan's just killed by Maggie. She's like, yeah, remember all that stuff I talked about, how I'm never going to forgive you? Well, this is it. And she kills him with a baseball bat. And then it's just the show is still called Maggie and Negan for the next 12 seasons while they do that show. He's just dead in the first one.
I mean, seriously, I don't think they're going to do that, but it would be pretty funny. Or The World Beyond. I'm looking at audience numbers because I think that they're going to struggle to pull a 1 share on this thing
for any of the spinoffs.
Yeah. Because when I'm looking at the
even Daryl Dixon.
When I'm looking at the ratings for these shows, they're struggling to get to 2 million. And this back half season, they've been struggling to stay above the 1 million mark. Although the Rest in Peace did bring another million. They've been waffling around, 1.3, 1.4. The Rest in Peace, the finale got 2.27. So almost 1 million people came back just to check it out. So I don't know. They might They might, with the Daryl spinoff, get to 2-3 million. I don't think they.
That's the thing. So there were 2.2 million people watching the first episode of season 11, and 2.27 watching the final, which means like 50,000 people or so hadn't seen anything of the season but came back for the finale.
Yeah,
and then there's hundreds of thousands of people who watched the first and last episode of that season and nothing in between. What's even the point?
Apparently so.
Why even come back for the finale? You have no context.
Maybe those are the 500,000 or 500,000 a million people are watching on AMC Plus, and then they were like disgruntledly coming back because it wasn't on AMC Plus that last one.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't expect long runs of any of this stuff, but who knows? Maybe there'll be 2 years of cashing out and AMC will come up with something else. Edward says, I've been a big fan of your Walking Dead podcast coverage for years. Well, thanks, Edward. Only reason I stuck with the show is in the end is that you decided to come back and finish the series. So thank you for that. Maybe there should be a question mark. There's a period, but maybe there's a question mark implied there. I'm also delighted to hear you'll be covering The Last of Us. I'll definitely be listening to your coverage on that. Again, check out Bald Move Pulp if you want to make sure you don't miss out a single episode. I'm from Ireland, relatively close to Paris in global terms. How would I cross the Irish Sea or the Celtic Sea to reach the continent in a zombie apocalypse?
Motorcycle with a paddle wheel.
How Daryl's going to achieve this and cross the Atlantic is baffling. Again, motorcycle pontoon with a paddle wheel. Mm-hmm. I might have to watch at least one episode to see how they manage this. Is this what they're counting on?
If he can hold a wheelie long enough, he doesn't even need the pontoons.
It's true. Yeah. Are they is this like a train wreck phenomenon where they're just counting on looky loos?
You
checking
can't,
out for the carvage,
right? I mean, they're not going to pull enough. I'm looking at the Fear the Walking Dead numbers, and they're on a similar trajectory as The Walking Dead, which shouldn't surprise you. Like 2 million in season 5, like struggling to pull one at the end of season 6, barely pulling one at the beginning of season 7, and now it's down to like 500,000. It's
and you look at World Beyond, it's brutal. Like they didn't get over 0.8 the entire second, and the final few episodes are 0.5, 0.4.
Are the Funko Pop sales really so strong that like you can support an entire TWCU on the backs of the sales of those?
I don't know. I'm trying to set my expectations because it wouldn't surprise me if these things are just dead on arrival, like they're not even pulling a one. Like people got to the end of The Walking Dead and are like, thank Christ, this is an off ramp.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, but like I also see, because you said that like the legions of Funko Pops, the video game people, the people that like have invested in this show, kind of like we have for 12 years. Like maybe it wouldn't surprise me for like 4 million for like the Daryl Dixon spinoff. But leading with the mag, like if they came back right away and they had the Rick and Michonne one ready to go, like I could see that getting pretty big numbers as a dedicated miniseries. I just don't know what Michonne or what Michelle and Negan are going to do. That's the one I really worry about, and it's the one that's leading off. If that thing struggles to get to 1 million people watching it, man, I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how you would get across the Irish Sea. Yeah. Sorry, I can't help you. A sailboat, a small sailboat, maybe.
I'm also kind of curious about the Maggie and Negan spinoff. They're probably two of the most interesting characters left on the show. Probably also watch the Rick and Michonne series. I feel like every time I get you feedback of this, I got to revise my estimate up
by one. Sure.
They had 2 predictions. I predict Carol sacrificed herself to save everyone. Didn't happen. Maybe a train filled with explosives like the end of V for Vendetta to take out the higher-ups of the Commonwealth. That sounds awesome. But alas, we just got the explodable subway tunnels. Mm-hmm. Double Aaron says first time.
Let me ask you about the exploding subway tunnels. I assume...
Yeah.
Did they just blow up all of Pamela's friends and major donors?
Yeah, it looked like
or did they evacuate all of them?
Oh, no, I think they got. I don't think they. I think they spared everyone.
Okay.
Hey, don't shamble off. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back, survivors. Here's even more of The Walking Dead. Double Aaron says, long time, first time. I'll try not to ramble on too much, but I do have some thoughts as we wrap up this series I wanted to share. That's what we're here for. First, I feel like the series did itself a disservice when the walkers became something not to fear. In the early days, the show was legit edgy or seat stuff. Think back to when Morgan's wife was turning on the doorknob. Yeah, creepy shit. Then it just went from one group of people to the other, highs and lows along the way, but I feel like they took the focus off much of the walkers and became an annoyance to be dispatched quickly. Okay. I don't know how you feel about this, because the comic, that's the bend of the comic too, that like the zombies are, of course, everywhere and they're an omnipresent threat, and you've just got housewives and biology teachers and retirees trying to like fight this. But eventually the survivors are badasses to where the dead are no longer that much of a challenge anymore. Then the living become the real threat. I think that's really cool. The thing, the number one sin of The Walking Dead is that they didn't wrap this thing up in 7 or 8 seasons.
Yes. Oh, 7 and 8. It might be too many. I think 5 seasons. You could have done. You could have cut back on like the repetitiveness of some of the comic stuff too, because like going from community to community and finding out, oh yeah, these people are assholes too, and then fighting against them became repetitive after the governor. Like,
yeah,
season 4 ends that arc. They spent 2 seasons on that. Do a season 3 that is the governor. Do a season 4 that is. Do you need anybody else? Do you need Terminus? Do you need all that shit? Maybe Terminus. Do a season 5 with the Whisperers. Maybe a season 6. I don't know. It seems, yes, the show's biggest sin is it went on way too long.
I think that they had something there. You have the governor, who is the first shot where we see like a resemblance of civilization coming, but he's just batshit crazy. Then you've got Terminus, which is people that seem like they're welcoming, but they're just cannibals. They're batshit crazy too. You got Alexandria, which is, they're essentially Rick's group. They're well-meaning, but they're just unseasoned. They were just lucky people that were born into a society, a place where they could pull off something and they could be self-dependent, but they didn't have any plans for like when other hostiles would show up. And then Negan, which is essentially the governor, but smart and like calculating and not crazy. Like Negan's many things, but I don't think he's like clinically insane. And then you got the Whisperers. And then I guess the Commonwealth would work as like kind of like a final tying the bow. Like, you know, this is like a synthesis of all the big bads that come before. I think that's pretty, but like you just have to move through it, man. Like 7 seasons, and just like each season should have been a community that our survivors square off against after the first 2, which are essentially just surviving as family groups, you know?
Yeah, I mean, even that would have felt repetitive. I don't know. They needed a hook more than just like new community. Oh, they're bad too, and that's it. I mean, Alexandria was kind of the only departure from that. Yeah,
because they weren't bad. They were kind of like selfish and lazy, but they weren't evil.
And
Dina's son.
A little green, right? They just like they didn't know what they were doing.
They didn't know what it's like out there, Jim.
Right.
I think is what you're trying to say. No, and I think the other thing is like it's not just the seasons; it's also the fact that each season was supersized 16 episode season split into 2. So you always had weird pacing things. I think if this was a 7 season run of 10 to 12 episodes, that's so much better. And I think that like all this other stuff about like the fact that you'd have to worry about getting bored of zombies and get bored, that stuff doesn't, because you're just like rapidly going through, which I think is pretty good. The material that I saw in the comic book, which almost always better than the decisions they made in the show. Secondly, Aaron says, I wish they'd explored more of the CDC type of stuff. It was really interesting. Research maybe find something pointing towards a cure. Just felt like something they could have explored instead of big bad guy and Group X. Do you know that this is... I read an interview from 2020 of Robert Kirkman where he says his biggest regret in the whole of Walking Dead is the CDC episode in season 1. He said it gave way too much to the survivors. Things that should have been mysterious weren't. The world became larger instead of smaller. It's funny because this is Aaron's favorite part, or double Aaron's favorite part, and it's Kirkman's worst misstep, he says.
I mean, maybe it's a misplaced episode. Maybe season 1 is not where you want to do that, but
yeah,
I understand that.
But it's wild if you do it in the season 3. Like, this guy's been holding on like a year or two into the apocalypse. Like, it's one of those things that either you shouldn't have done it at all, or that's probably where you do it. I don't know. I like the CDC episode on balance. I thought that's the only one that I really don't like in season 1 is like Vatos, I think is the one.
Sure.
Cohen had some thoughts with the penultimate episode. I gotta say that The Walking Dead has blown my fucking mind. After what, in my opinion, is one of the shittiest episodes in season 11, this comeback of an episode is fantastic. There's so much to love, and even if not many people died this episode, it still felt brutal. Lydia losing her arm was unexpected, and I immediately blanched, as she has become one of my favorites. Judith getting shot was sudden, even though I think she'll survive. Daryl's immediate tunnel vision and obvious terror made me feel a lot. That shot of him running through the smoke and haze carrying Judith was moving, especially with the music, which is another thing to talk about in this episode, as I think they absolutely nailed it. Yeah, it seems like Bear really got up for these last few episodes. There was some really signature pieces of music being made in late season Walking Dead. Cohen says another thing I liked was Pamela's spiral out of control this whole episode, and her decision at the end to just abandon her population in favor of protecting the rich, which I felt was very similar to what happened in, say, Hurricane Katrina, especially with the mention of the wards. I don't know if that was intentional. I know it's not just New Orleans that has wards, like Houston has them too and stuff, but like I definitely felt some kinship there.
Yeah, she's a fool though. I mean, what... Okay, so she preserves all her big money donors. Where does her workforce come from? Where does her labor come from? Who supplies her with the amenities that she is so used to when her underlings get decimated?
Well, they wouldn't be the first autocratic regime to not really consider the impact of, demonizing and sacrificing your underclasses. Like, fuck.
Fair.
Who's going to take out the trash? Who's going to shovel shit? Who's going to do the laundry?
Who's gonna program the timer on the clock on my VCR? Yeah.
As she said in the last episode, who's going to do the jobs no one wants to do? Well, we're going to have a chore list, okay? And we're going to make
Sure.
I felt the group desperately fighting through the streets while getting pinned in was tense and reminded me very much of when not only Negan used the same strategy to trap them, but also when the Terminus folks herded them into the A car. There's one more thing I wanted to add that I think might bring back some happy memories of your guys' early Walking Dead podcast, as I've recently been listening to your early season 4 podcast and stumbled upon this gem of a nickname that you guys used for Patrick, the kid who's the first to die in the flu epidemic. This is the prison arc.
Okay.
As you call them, not making this shit up, Boris the pig fucker. Now,
what? Why?
I don't know where the pig fucking came into it, and I'm like, why do we call him Boris the pig? I looked this guy up, and it's because he looks exactly like Alan Cummins.
Okay.
As Boris, the evil Russian hacker in James Bond's GoldenEye installment. So
Sure.
I don't know where the pig fucking came out, but he is. I'll stand by the Boris comparison for sure.
All right.
He was not invincible. In fact, moving on to Mike from St. Louis says, I'm sure many of us would love a final Al and Joe hot take on The Walking Dead before The Walking Dead yeets off the airwaves. Best of upcoming holiday wishes. Well, thanks, Mike. We've been trying to get Al and Joe nailed down since their disastrous appearance in season 9 of The Walking Dead for us, where they did that unfortunate mishap with Daryl Dixon's drive. And it's like they're cagey. They're cagey, wily negotiators. We still haven't got him. We tried to get him. We thought like, oh, you know what? We'll bring him back because we don't want to watch. What is this show? What's the show that everybody
Succession?
loves except for us? Succession. We don't want to watch Succession. Maybe Al and Joe will do Succession for us. And then Jim got cold feet. Like, oh, what if it turns into a fiasco? Can we?
Yeah.
Trust
What if
Jim
these guys aren't professional enough to show up each week?
Right. Right, so we couldn't get him. Maybe one of these spinoffs would be a good time for them to return. We just got to get him nailed down the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Wondered Object. I can't believe the show is finally ending somewhat. It's truly hard to believe that it's lasted this long, and I want to say a few things. Bald Move, by way of the Watching Dead podcast, taught me an incredible life lesson. You don't owe anyone, or in the case of The Walking Dead, anything. Let me explain. I used to be one of those people who had to finish things out, even when I wasn't enjoying it. This show was one of those things. I loved the first 2 seasons, but really came to hate it as the show went on.
Oh, no.
Then Glenn died, and the way they handled that was the last straw for me. Granted, I might have a bigger gripe with AMC and how they handle things, but that's beside the point. But I was so loyal to the show that I kept on watching. It wasn't until you guys decided to stop covering it that I decided to do the same, and damn, my life's been better since. And I've used it in all aspects of my life. Shows, jobs, relationships. If I'm not benefiting from it, then it's best to cut ties. Most recently, I've stopped following my beloved Raiders, and that's been a breath of fresh air. Once you came back, I followed, but I've had no regrets about that. I'm happy to hate watch the show, now knowing that you'll be going to put out an incredible podcast that week. So thanks. Again, question mark?
Yeah, I feel like this would have been a better statement at the end of season 8 when we quit, as opposed to the end of season 12, 14, whatever it is, after we've come back for another few.
Yeah.
But I take your meaning, right? Like, we quit, and then we heard it was good again, and so we came back to it. You know, we thought maybe it would benefit us. I think it's fair. It's fair to say also, if you quit something and you realize, hey, actually that thing that I quit has either gotten better or my life has changed and it fits in now, and I think it would make me happy. I think there's an opportunity to reclaim some of those things, but yeah, we came back, and it hasn't been all roses.
It has not. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's an underrated life lesson that if things suck, you can just bone out. You can just fuck off and bone out and drop out and get the hell out and not spend any more time and energy. But also, sometimes, it's always good to give something a second look, I guess. I don't know.
It can be. We'll say that.
Wondered says, I do have a bit of sentimental value to this show. My wife and I started dating the month this came out, and it was pretty much our first show we started watching together. She didn't jump back in when I did, but still, it's pretty fun to look at things like that. The show's been with me through our dating years, engagement, marriage, and now 2 kids. It's just very fun to look at it like that. Went from dating to cohabitating to buying a house to getting married. My son went from being 3, probably still working on not shitting his pants, to he just got his driver's license. Like, it's a big chunk of my life here. Like, I've covered The Walking Dead longer than I've ever had a job otherwise, for sure. And it's not even close. It's not even close.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be honest, I might give in and watch a spinoff with Rick or the other ones once the season is released in full. I'll definitely be watching if you guys are. Well, boy, it's putting a lot of pressure on us not to watch these shows. I feel like we're the people like, maybe I'll shoot up heroin again. Yeah, sure, we're all clean and sober now, but it was some good times when we were doing it. I feel like maybe we should just not do the heroin.
Yeah, if you guys do it, I'll do it.
Thanks for everything, you guys. Bald Move has been with us through the same stages of life. Both my kids were born on a Friday, so we'd watch a lunch after they were born. LOL, Bald Move is part of the family. Oh my God, I did not consent to be in the delivery room. I probably saw and heard things I did not sign up to hear and see.
I mean, they probably did too, but given the topics of lunch.
Jesus. Oh my God. We should have a nightmare birth rotation for like what are the worst lunches to listen to while you're going through labor.
Sure.
As voted by the Bald Move moms. Lunch number 1. Shan Jam says, I think season 11 is actually the worst season. It's boring me to tears. The dialogue was terrible. Artificial dangers left and right. Car crash over nothing. Walkers popping out of nowhere. But I think the worst part is the Commonwealth is the ultimate big bad falls just way short. They're not scary. Not interesting. There's not a real menacing villain. Obviously, The Walking Dead has been going downhill for years, but I think this season's officially the worst. Your thoughts? Where does the season land in your rankings? We'll see how it wraps up, but I'm just ready to get over with and put a bullet in its head. Man,
I don't
so
know
that's
if I
the
can
thing.
rank.
Season 11 felt like a return to form of The Walking Dead, and not in a good way. Like,
Yeah, I mean, season 8 is clearly the worst. I think, like, without a doubt. I would put that at the bottom of the list, but yeah, I mean, there have been some colossal missteps in season 11. But overall, it hung together, I think, better than season 8.
Yeah, boys, stretching out the Negan arc to 3 seasons really fucked that up.
Mm-hmm.
Really fucked that up pretty bad. Because that's probably the right answer, and it's the one that, like, it's also the one where the hope kind of died. Because like 4, 5, and 6, I don't think objectively were any better than 2, 3, 2 and 3, the Mazzara run, but we had hope that Gimple's like, well, you know, he hasn't had that much experience, and he did write that one episode that kind of like redeemed Lori, even while we were having a Fiesta cast celebrating her death, and kind of made us feel like assholes. And he's got I think he's a fan of the material, and he's got. And I don't know, maybe we were one of the ones that made him into a monster, because it turns out he just turned into a guy you couldn't tell a goddamn thing to, because he was the showrunner of a show getting 18 million eyeballs. 36 million eyeballs, because there's each one of those people had 2. And you couldn't tell him anything. And he's kind of still like that. Like that thing he wrote, that the epilogue he wrote for Rick and Michonne is embarrassing, and he's bragging about it on all the after shows. So yeah, but 11, as much as I like Angela Kang, I think that there is just too much bullshit, too much rug pulls, too much too much pressure to come up with a finale for a show that's not really ending. It's not really ending.
The weight of the Walking Dead franchise was crushing down on her, and I don't know that you could stand up against that weight any better than she did.
Yeah, but I don't know, because like I think the best season is season 1.
That's sad. That is sad. Yeah. They should just stop there. Just CDC episode into season, done. One and done.
And then I think if we went back and watched season 2, we would see that as probably the glory years too, because there was some really stupid shit. The Glenn like already you can see the strain for making more show for less money. But then 3, you know, I feel like 4, 5, and 6, where you get the core of the early Gimple years, you got the post-prison arc, you got the beginning of the Negan. There was still this kind of hope that then died beneath the dumpster with Glenn. And the show just never I don't think the show ever recovered from that.
No.
And if you look at the ratings, I think that's clearly where the bloom fell off the rose for The Walking Dead.
It's where it became apparent what kind of storytellers we were dealing with. People who were not interested in painting compelling characters and compelling narratives. They simply wanted to shock you and surprise you and use that as a crutch to get people to come back next week to see the exciting resolution, right? And that's
what you didn't need. There was, again, 18 million people watching this. You were doing fine.
Right.
Why did you have to punch this shit up, man?
No, it was the Glenn dumpster just laid bare all of the sins that The Walking Dead was committing on a weekly basis, and it was no longer ignorable.
Yeah. Sewell's got some strong feelings about the finale. Stink, stank, stunk. Very holiday appropriate here. Awful. Excuse me, did we not just go through 3 whole episodes of everyone losing their shit because the Commonwealth took their children? In the first possible moment they can, Judith convinces Carol and fucking Daryl Dixon, the prime person Rick and Michonne asked to take care of her, to take her into a fucking coup at the Commonwealth. Even this show had to remove her plot armor for such negligence, and she jumps in front to save Maggie and Isle of the Dead spinoff. Eugene just out there throwing a fucking cloak and turning onto solid mullet snake, knocking on walls and ambush beating Commonwealth soldiers like the Dark Knight. Where are we going? What are we doing? Well, we're trying to finish this show. I guess if I have to take issue here, is like I didn't have a problem with Judith being brought along, because I think she made a pretty compelling point of like, God damn it. The problem is Judith should have been Carl. This should have been
Yeah.
Carl's moment of, I am taking up my father's torch and I'm a grown-ass man, Uncle Daryl. I'm 18, 19, going on 20. I can be risked on these commando missions. And instead, it's an 11-year-old girl who's got a good heart. And yes, all of her reasons for wanting to fight are valid, but she's just 11 years old and it just doesn't work. But we couldn't pay Chandler Riggs too much money to be the star, to be the emotional heart of the show 3 seasons ago. So fuck all that, you know?
Well, it's because they knew they had 6 more seasons to go, and they'd probably have to pay him millions by the end of it. And they were like, yeah, let's just get somebody new.
They'd have to cut 3 logs out of the Hilltop's wall budget if they paid this guy.
Don't shamble off. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back, survivors. Here's even more of The Walking Dead.
Gretchen from Virginia says, the worst possible ending I can imagine AMC coming up with The Walking Dead is some kind of end or cure for the zombie virus. Could the evolving walkers be the end of the virus? If everyone is affected, I don't see how. How much is Robert Kirkman involved in the show? In the past, I've been against main character deaths, but come on. Negan never gets any bad karma for all the bashed in heads. Gabriel's forgiven for locking out his parishioners to be eaten. Where's the justice? Gretchen says, P.S. You should read the comics. I plan on it. I've been waiting. I am going to get the omnibuses. I'm either going to buy them or get them from the library. Because the last I read was the beginning of the Whisperer arc. So a shit ton has happened. I would love to compare and contrast. I don't know. I guess like I kind of thought maybe the cure for the zombies plague was going to be the end of the, like, you know, that now the humanity's back on a path where they could recover from this. I
mean, that might still be the goal, just not in The Walking Dead, right? In the larger franchise.
Right. And I didn't think it would I guess it would ruin The Walking Dead in the case that The Walking Dead would be over at that point. But I thought that would be a satisfying conclusion of, you know, humans, even in an apocalypse, being ingenious enough or that the virus burns itself out. It'd be really interesting if these smart zombies is like a step in that direction, showing this virus is mutating. So will it eventually mutate into a place where it doesn't reanimate the dead? I don't know.
I don't think it has to be the end of The Walking Dead if there are no zombies. I think they could come out with a show called like
After The Walking Dead.
Yeah, Undead The Walking Dead, where they've taken all the dead out of The Walking Dead.
Oh, The World Beyond The Walking Dead. That would have been a good one for that.
It could have been, yeah. And you could just have these micro stories about the reestablishment of civilization, right?
Which I always thought was such a cool hook.
I know.
I loved the civilizational reboot attempts. Yeah. As far as Robert Kirkman, go ahead.
I was going to talk about justice in The Walking Dead because, like, there's an inherent assumption built in here, or inherent like feeling that the only justice for these people is death, and I think there has been a bit of justice for Negan. Negan spent
I agree.
a long ass time in a dank prison cell, in somebody's basement. And he has had a lot of time to think about his actions, to dwell. They've been thrown in his face many times. I think like he has changed, and I don't think you know, if you commit a sin, you deserve death, and that's it. Almost no matter how heinous the sin is. I think there can be redemption. There can be justice that is outside the scope of just like, oh, let's kill him.
Plus, Negan had a tragic start. Like, I can easily imagine if Shane had managed to kill Rick. I imagine our group turns out kind of like, you know, Governor Negan, like, because Shane was on a real bad path, like being so fixated on protecting the ones that he loves that I could easily see him become a tyrant.
Totally.
So like, yeah, I think that's like literally the story of Negan. And I get that, like, if you're a Maggie or a Herschel, that there's nothing he can ever do to make that up to you. But like, you know, societally, that's, you know, like if we left it to the mothers and fathers of slain children to dispense justice, well, then we wouldn't need jails, right? You just kill people because,
of course,
you know, but that's not kind of how we do it. So I thought that stuff was interesting to explore. And I actually thought some of that stuff, like Gabriel's redemption, not just being, because it's not just enough for people to forgive and move on. You have to forgive yourself. you know, and like his crisis of faith, all that stuff. I thought that was pretty well realized. And I also thought Jeffrey Dean Morgan, you know, like his evolution of Negan through the seasons was pretty good too. But
yeah,
you know, I'm not going to argue with anybody. As far as Robert Kirkman being involved, as far as I can tell, Robert Kirkman stopped writing his own comic books. Like he claimed that like at the Savior War that they were halfway through, and like he had this grandiose plans of like it's Carl's going to take over eventually, and it's going to be kind of his story and blah blah blah, yada yada yada. I think in much less than half of the remaining issues, if he were to write it out with the Savior War being the midpoint, that he wrapped things up in a pretty abrupt fashion, is what I heard. So, and I also, he's still credited as an executive producer, just like everybody else, just like the 17 other people. And they just 2 weeks ago, dropped a $200 million lawsuit where he's joined by Gale Ann Hurd and I think Mazzara and a few other, everybody was not Darabont.
Everybody who hadn't already got theirs, yeah.
Yeah, because Darabont settled for $200 million 2 years ago, which feels like this is where the starting price came out. They filed a brand new lawsuit against AMC for them screwing over. So I don't think Robert was that involved in the late stages of The Walking Dead, but he still gets favorable interviews like almost every season. Like someone, and he's not talking bad, probably because that would be actionable. But anyway. Pat says, I know you and many others have been discussing about how the Maggie Negan spinoff can happen. What are the scenarios that will put them together in New York? Speculation is that Herschel and or Annie will die, etc. I've had a horrible thought. The Daryl spinoff will start with Daryl waking up in France and have no idea how he got there. Would AMC possibly do the same thing with Maggie and Negan spinoff? Could they both just wake up in New York City with no idea how they got there? I mean, that's a good way to get less than 1 million people watching it in your first season. Like, if you pull, like, the reverse, it was all a dream. Like, you know, one of those maybe. If Daryl got briefly and he wakes up in France, he doesn't know how he got there, but like, you can't do that for everything.
Michonne
really, you should
goes
do
to
it
sleep
for
one night, wakes up in Canada. Fuck, how'd I get here?
Oh my God. Turns out he's not. He's just been taken to Kings Island north of Cincinnati, and he sees the Eiffel Tower and he's like, I'm in France. Holy shit.
Jerry falls asleep one night, wakes up in Narnia, goes, how the fuck did I get here? Yeah, let's do it.
Christopher says, clearly you guys haven't watched The World Beyond. The three circles are from the CRM, the group Jadis took Rick to. That's the Civil Republic military. I have not watched The World Beyond.
I've not watched it. Have no plans to watch The World Beyond.
Probably super fascinating stuff in there, but I'm barely die hard enough to finish this series, let alone start another. I mean, they fooled me once with the Fear the Walking Dead. Remember when we were excited about that?
Yeah.
Wow. We'll get the actual see the fall of LA, and that's going to be fucking awesome. And they yada through it
for a second time. Yeah.
Jesus. Matt Wood, are you guys glad you made the decision to come back to this show after a break? What seasons were your favorite? What seasons were your least favorite? And last, what are your thoughts on the numerous deviations from the comics the show has taken over the years? Cheers, and I look forward to new episodes of your other shows. Well, thanks, Matt. I am glad that we came back to The Walking Dead, actually. I thought, because you might not know this, but we rage quit season 9. Our friend Jason Kabasi from The Talking Dead called me and wanted to know if I wanted to get, for old time's sake, together with him and do some random early episode season 9 thing with him and his co-host. And I'm like, sure, I would love to do that. So I watched, I think, the first 3 episodes of The Walking Dead in season 9, and like an icy hand gripped my heart, like, oh my God, maybe we fucked up. The new showrunner, this stuff is looking kind of cool. And I felt like maybe we'd made, I think we'd always kind of like in the back of our mind thinking we were making a mistake, because we walked away from The Walking Dead when it's still a pretty big show for us. It's still a pretty big show for us. But like, you know, it was really bad, and Jim was starting to feel like, I think your thought is like, we are killing ourselves professionally because like how can people take us seriously when we're covering something that's like really good when we're covering this gutter show and we're just doing it because it's got numbers? Like what?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, and it was just getting to me week after week watching this terrible show, knowing that I had to come up with, you know, my 1,000-word essay on it. It was becoming not fun for me.
Yeah. So taking a break, coming back to it in the pandemic where, you know, like this is big unprecedented thing gave us the cover to kind of like go back and catch up to where we're at and try to catch up to where the show was. And, you know, the community kind of got behind us because what else the hell are you going to do in the middle of a pandemic where you're stuck outside and do all that? I honestly, it's all worked out the best. And I feel like as long as we're always trying to do things for the right, you know, like staying and covering the show that we hated because it got good numbers is an AMC thing to do. Right. Fucking bailing on the show and coming back chasing 2.5 years later in the middle of a global pandemic, that's a fucking bald move thing to do. And we will continue to do those things.
That it's actually getting good again, right? Like, so I also want to say, like, one of the big reasons we quit was because I have this strong feeling that, like, and this is true, like, no press is bad press. And the more we talk about The Walking Dead, the more it encourages people to buy into this bad show. And there's so much good television out there. We're going to spend our time focused on this. Why? And that was really weighing on me in the depths of season 8 when it was just a garbage fire of a show. You know, and once season 9 comes back and is under new direction and is reportedly pretty good, as reported by my co-host here, who had seen a few episodes, I'm like, okay, man, we'll see how it goes. And then season 9 was pretty good overall. And it was like, all right, maybe it's time to come back to this because it's a show that I can honestly point people to and say, this is worth your time.
Yeah.
And it was just like season after season was not worth people's times in the middle of this thing. And I felt bad pointing people to it and saying, this is a thing I'm watching, and letting that be some kind of indicator of its quality. Mm-hmm. The fact that we're covering it, I think, is an indicator of its quality. Mm-hmm. And to some degree, when we have a limited amount of time that we can devote to shows, us giving it any coverage seems like we're sanctioning it at least a little, or we're encouraging people to watch it at least a little bit. So I was very much feeling the weight of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we definitely, but then I guess we're gratified that lately it's not, I'm still watching because of you guys. It's mostly, I'm not even watching anymore. I'm just listening. That's the best case scenario where you're just supporting us. You're not giving any eyeballs to AMC. And you're not selling yourself by the physical act of watching the show. We are the same thing with your hazmat suits. We do this stuff so you don't have to.
Yeah, we're releasing our coverage of Andor pretty soon for our club members. Run off the clock, and I did the same thing with Star Wars. I said Star Wars sucks right now. Star Wars is garbage. They haven't made anything good in 25 years. Way longer than that. I mean, they haven't made anything good in ages. I can't cover these shows. And so I said, I'm not covering Andor. I'm not even going to watch Andor until I hear that Star Wars has turned it around. And I heard that Star Wars turned it around. And so we did a couple of episodes on it. I really want to cover season 2 if we have the time in our schedule when it drops. I just don't feel like I can honestly point people to shows with my coverage of that show if it's not a good show. Even if I'm having fun podcasting it.
Yeah, sometimes it's at some point you feel like a obligation to the brand and to the community to not steer them awry. What's funny, like I don't know, maybe it's because we're not publicly traded. If we're publicly traded, we'd be a lot worse off. But like, yeah, it's like if AMC zealously guarded their brand as half as well as we try to watch after the Pips, oh my God.
Yeah.
Carly says, I was listening to an old Ty and That Guy podcast, and they're talking about the value of good writing. I know that Ty Frank, and of course, this is one half of the dynamic writing duo that came up with the Expanse series, the books and the television series we love so much. What if Ty Frank was hired to write for a Walking Dead spinoff? Would you watch it then?
Oh boy, probably. I would want to see what he does with this world.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't have any faith that his vision could be realized in a meaningful way, because the constraints of budget there might not allow for it. But I would at least give it a try. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,